Morning, welcome to another video. Today's video, I'm going to talk about a comment that we got about boring. This guy said that the world would be a miserable, boring place without alcohol. And my first reaction to reading that, it's like a lot of these posts. When I read some of these posts, I know where they're coming from. Sometimes they come off a bit snotty or a bit weird, but I know where they're coming from because I was there, especially during the last years of my own drinking, right? So I get it. And my first reaction to this one was feeling sad, that some people actually think that way, right? Whatever life has thrown at them, whatever paths they've taken in life, to believe that life itself is boring without taking a drug, that is sad, right? It's, I know, right, that people take a drug like alcohol and they, when you're doing something that is damaging to yourself and it's damaging to yourself, even though you're trying to push that knowledge down, you're not trying to, it's not forefront in your mind. People that talk about their drug taking like this, or people that talk about the drug taking in general, they're convincing themselves that what they're doing is the right thing for many, many different reasons. And I know, like I said, because I did it, I was there. I did it for a long time. I drank for over 30 years. And, those first few years are different to the last few years, right? And all of this is in your mind, right? And in your mind, there is a logic to it. In your mind, you're drinking alcohol, or you're convincing yourself that you're drinking alcohol because it's fun and it's the only way that you can have fun in life. But as with anything, if you do it for long enough, it just becomes something that you do. Forget about the damage that it's causing you for a minute, the physical damage that it's causing you. If you do this for long enough, it becomes a part of not only what you do, but it becomes a part of what you think. It becomes a part of who you are, right? It intertwines with everything that you do. Look, life, even the good life, I think especially the good life, is defined by its boundaries. It's defined by what you put in place as a boundary, or what is put in place by life as a boundary, right? I think you can only live well if you discriminate one behavior from another, right? You have to say to yourself, well, I do this, but I don't do that. And I don't do that because I want to do this, right? I have this line I don't cross because if I cross this line, then the end result is not going to be what I want, right? Now, drug use by its very nature is restrictive. It's restrictive in time, it's restrictive in energy, it's restrictive in brain power, in thinking, in your ability to think. Any of these drugs, they, even the drugs that are bringing you up high, like cocaine and whatever, eventually they bring you down. Eventually they compromise your ability to think. And it's the same thing with alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant from the beginning. So once you take a drug, you start restricting all these things: time, energy, your brain power. I'm not going to go too deeply into that here. It requires a lot of videos. We talk about this a lot in the program Habits V2 because it's such an important thing to understand, and then the other side of it to understand how to get out of that kind of thinking, right? But the more you drink, the more you narrow your focus in life in general, right? The more you restrict yourself, the smaller and smaller the area of your life becomes. My first question to this guy would be, if you think that life is miserable or boring without alcohol, have you tried it? Have you tried living your life without alcohol? And I mean truly living your life without alcohol. Not just a dry week or a dry month, doing the dry January and knowing that at the end of it you're going to go back. You're going to go back to the end of that drink. And I did a year of alcohol once, and 10 months, but I knew I was going to go back to the alcohol, so it wasn't the same. You don't put the effort into it, then it's not the same mindsets. If you took a year and being open-minded about that year, and you're saying to yourself, look, I'm going to take a full year away from alcohol and I'm going to give it my best shot, and I'm going to see how I feel after that year, and then I'm going to assess the situation, right? I'm not going to automatically say, yeah, I'm going to do a year, or I'm going to do 6 months, or I'm going to do 3 months or a month, and then I'm going to go back to alcohol. You have to take it like, this is a period of time that I'm going to go without alcohol, and then maybe I'll go back, maybe I won't. And that maybe I'll go back or maybe I won't will be based on the assessment of what you've just done in that 3 months. But I'm guessing that this guy is just making assumptions. You know, you're assuming that life without alcohol is boring. You know, and if you're making those assumptions, what evidence are you basing your assumptions on? You see, I've seen both sides of this line. I've seen the 30 years of my life with the belief that life without alcohol would be boring, right? Maybe even pointless. I've lived the last decade of my life without alcohol, and I can tell you which part of it is the boring one, and it's not the last decade that I've lived, for sure. You know, now I don't for one moment believe that the person who made this comment is seriously asking a question. I think it was just a flippant comment, right? As a reaction to the video, a reaction to his own drinking, rather than a serious question that he was making, you know. Now any drinker who thinks that life is going to be boring without alcohol, just ask yourself that. What are you basing this statement on? You know, as I said, the likelihood is, 99% likelihood is that you're basing it on an assumption based on what you're living through right now and the way your brain is operating right now. You know, when you're a drinker, your life is made up of, let's say it's made up of 2 zones, right? The zone when you're drinking and the zone when you're not drinking. Now, the zone when you're drinking, that's restrictive, right? You can only do so many things while you're drinking, right? There's not much else. You can't get into your car and drive somewhere. You can't operate heavy machinery. But there's so many different things. I know the things that popped into my head right now, but there's so many different things you cannot do once you're drinking, right? The zone is restrictive in terms of your time. Like I said, not much that you can do with that time. Restrictive in terms of your energy. There's not much you can do in a similar way. Plus, you have to use your limited time and energy also to recover from the drinking once you've stopped the drinking, right? That time and energy that you could be employing in other places in your life, time and energy, and the brain power that you could be employing in other areas of your life. So alcohol also diminishes your thinking, as I said, not just your thinking while you're drinking, but your thinking overall, the quality of your overall thinking. You know, the quality of your thoughts in general diminishes. And it doesn't happen overnight, it happens over time, so you don't notice that it's diminishing. Now think about this, how the zone when you're drinking affects the zone when you're not drinking. You know, an exciting life just does not happen, right? In order to get an exciting life, you've got to create it, it takes effort, it takes time and energy, and it takes thinking. You know, you put yourself into a position where you can enjoy a fruitful life and an exciting life, right? If you're not doing the work that you need to do to create the opportunities for an exciting life, life is going to appear pretty boring, right? You know? And as a drinker, once your life is boring, you know how to get away, not from the boring life, but from the symptom of being bored, right? And the answer to that question is to drink. And it's not just to drink 1 or 2, it's to drink a lot. You have to drink enough so that you drown out that boredom. So you're not worried about being bored, you're not worried about thinking. So now you've got a situation where life is boring, life with alcohol is also boring, but you don't notice it because you're out of your face. You know, and alcohol can become a crutch for so many people. And the problem is there's a huge risk that it becomes the sole source of your enjoyment or the sole source of your relief from the mundaneness of life or from the challenges of life. And drinking can monopolize all your time, all your energy, all your thinking, and it therefore diminishes your opportunities for having fulfilling experiences. You know, if you depend on alcohol for entertainment, for solace, for escape, when you're in the middle of a behavior like this, you might not recognize how restrictive it's become and how it's just impacting your life in general, your overall life, the rest of your life. That's what I'm saying. It's not, you don't do this thing in isolation and then forget it and you move on to something else. This is all an accumulation of damage. So if you want to build an exciting, fulfilling life, you have to put in the effort and you have to put in the time. You've got to have the intention of building that life, and you've got to put that intention into goals and then building from there. You know, this all involves understanding and moving after your passions, connecting with other people, you know, taking on challenges. And when you're dependent on alcohol in any shape or form, right, it can completely overshadow all of these things. Right? You're creating a life which is boring or empty without the poison. And I say this as well for people who think that they're only drinking one or two, because you know, then being with other people becomes boring without alcohol. You know, doing the normal things in life that bring you joy and happiness, that becomes boring without alcohol, even if you're only drinking one or two. Right? That's my spin on it anyway. So take it what you will. If you're looking for some clarity in the fog, if you're looking to get away from those alcohol-driven beliefs, you might consider our free beginner's guide to unplugging from alcohol. It just gives you some basic insights and concepts from our main program, which hopefully will help you edge a little bit closer to making that decision that unplugging from alcohol permanently is a good thing in your life. It's free, it's in the description below, as is the link for our full Stop Drinking Alcohol program. So take care of yourself and I'll speak to you soon. Onwards and upwards. Bye now.